Hey everyone, my name is Lily and I'm the book blogger behind Utopia State of Mind, and today I'm going to be doing the first kind of filming section of my Shadow and Bone Grishaverse trilogy reading experience, I guess. I'm not really sure what I'm going to call it, but just fair warning, I will not look the same in all these clips because I'm going to be filming kind of my reactions as I read this book, and then maybe if I like it then I'll, do the second one and third one, which I guess are Siege and Storm and Ruin and Rising. This is my copy. I have read about 8 chapters for reference. That is about 130 pages. So if you want to see, it's about here. I would say that it's not quite half, but more than a quarter, maybe like a third essentially of the book. I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to read this only because of the Netflix series. So I've read Six of Crows, but I read it in 2017. And I had never read this trilogy at all. I own Shadow and Bone and I own, what is it called? King of Scars, I think. It's down below. So I own both of those, but I haven't read this one or the other one. But then I was looking at people talking about it and I was like, okay, I guess I should read this trilogy before the Netflix one comes out. So I don't actually know how I feel about it because I did see the trailer and it did kind of spoil a little bit of the story for me, but that's on me. But today I wanted to film kind of my first reaction part about the first 8 chapters. I'm not gonna do one after every chapter. I think I might just do a third of the book and a third of the book and a third of the book. Depending on how much I have to talk about. So I have my phone here with the notes about what I think. By the way, also I want to mention that there are going to be spoilers in regards to the book, so please don't watch this video if you haven't read the book, like me essentially, because I'm going to try to keep everything super kind of genuine to what I'm feeling at the moment. And also I know a lot of people have read the book, so I think that it'll be okay, but please just know that if I drop little spoilers, this is gonna be a spoilery reaction kind of thing. I'm really afraid of the hype for Shadow and Bone. I know that people really like the book series and the Grishaverse world. I really enjoyed Six of Crows, but I wouldn't say that I'm a mega fan of the Grishaverse. And so I'm kind of afraid of the hype. And I I kind of know a little bit of the names from the Grishaverse. So the Darkling, I guess, is a person in this book. And it is because I'm reading the book. So as I said, I'm 8 chapters in, and I feel like there's such a contrast in names between the Darkling and the Sun Summoner, right? I understand the dark and light kind of comparison that's going on, or that will be going on, I assume, in the book. But yeah, I don't know. So far, I feel that it's pretty standard fantasy-wise. Maybe if I was reading this when it came out, then I would feel a little bit differently, but reading it now, that's kind of just how I feel about it. No shade, but I've read a lot of fantasy books in 2020, but also in my life. I also was really confused by the trailer. So totally on me again, but I watched the trailer and I saw Kaz and I saw Inez and I was like, oh, so wait, am I gonna see the Six of Crows characters in this book? And so I was a little bit confused and I took to Twitter and Twitter said no, they just combined them. So a lot of my notes are just it's been forever since I read Six of Crows, but what is going on? And where is Inej, essentially? And also I have this note which says, is it just me or did I not remember a giant thing in the middle of the land, right? So this kind of foldy, rifty thing. As I said, it's been 2017 since I read Six of Crows. I had no idea that existed. Maybe that's just, I didn't remember the world building. Maybe it was mentioned in Six of Crows. I have no recollection of it. So I'm kind of just don't really know what's going on. And when I first read I would say the first couple chapters, I was of course she'd be in love with the boy she grew up with, duh. And then I was thinking, oh, that's so typical. And then I was like, oh wait, I'm also the girl who did that IRL. So it's like, kind of called myself out there in that one. I guess one of my main reactions to this so far is that in the trailer I saw that Alina, which is the main character of Shadow and Bone, looks like she's Asian, and I was kind of confused about that because based on the descriptions I've read so far, she didn't really seem Asian. And I was reading, and I talked to some people who'd already read it, and I was kind of like, what is going on? Like, am I missing something, essentially? They said that apparently for this one, she's half Shu and half, I don't know, but basically biracial in the Netflix series. And I guess that was just really confusing to me because, yeah, I was like, oh, I'm really excited. And that's totally my bad, right, that I didn't really think of that. And I remember when this kind of thing was happening, when they announced it, I remembered people talking about that, but I didn't remember actually who the name of the character was at all. So this was interesting. And I guess what I'm thinking about is, especially, I guess, when I see the Netflix series, I'll get a better understanding. But I also feel like a little conflicted, basically, about the issue because as a, Asian person, I just feel like there has to be so much more meaningful, nuanced conversations that go into that kind of situation. And I know obviously in fantasy worlds everything's kind of different, but at least so far from what I've read where they talk about the Shu people, they talk about how they like cut up what are they called? Grisha. They like cut them up essentially. And so I feel like that doesn't seem like a good thing, especially in the circle that they are, where they're kind of like super magical and powerful. And so I feel like even though Alina is an orphan, and even though Alina doesn't really have that much connection to her biracial identity in that sense, like she isn't, living with the reality of having like biracial parents like all around all the time, I do feel like that would probably be brought up at some point. I just feel like the reaction to what the Shu people do with Grisha was kind of a very intense description. And so I do wonder, going into this Netflix series, if there are going to be kind of meaningful attention brought to Alina's biracial identity, or if it will just be something that is kind of like brought up to make everything a bit more diverse. I'm not such a fan of the second one. I'm more a fan of the first, and obviously no one really knows until you've seen it. So I don't really know, but I really hope that not only have they made that conscious decision, but they've made it with intention and with a little bit of awareness about how to bring that identity, or that different identity to the character, and also to the character's lived experiences, essentially. So that was one of my main kind of thoughts about chapters 1 through 8, was this disconnect between seeing that trailer and also then reading the book. And also, I don't expect everything to be one-to-one, just because I've mentioned before in some videos, right, like people are looking for a series for different reasons than they're looking for a book. So I do understand about how there are going to be different directions and different kind of decisions made in regards to the series versus the book, and that's okay. I'm not expecting them to be one-to-one. I was just saying, because I'm only reading it because of the Netflix ones, it's kind of hard not to make any comparisons, but it's always important to kind of bring it back to, like, I'm not expecting them to be one-to-one accurate, kind of like 100% what you get in the book is what you get on the screen. But I also feel like the trailer spoiled the thing where like Alina had magic, so I basically also didn't read the summary of Shadow and Bone before I read it, so maybe in the summary it says that Alina has like light magic sun summoner stuff, but yeah, I didn't know that until the trailer, and then I was like, oh, well, I guess now I know. And so now it's making a lot more sense, the merch I've seen for like the Grishaverse, when it said Sun Summoner, because I'd seen that and I legitimately did not know what that was from. I thought it could have been from Shatter Me or from like any other fantasy series, so now I know what it means, and I will know for the future. Well, a lot of my notes really are just about thinking about the Shu clan and Alina and her biracial identity in the series versus in the book. As I said, that's kind of just something we're gonna have to see how it develops. Another thing I was thinking about is that a lot of people, from what I gather, from an outsider perspective entirely, kind of love the Darkling. And as I said, I'm only like a third into the book, so I'm a little bit confused by that. It's not that I don't like him, I just don't have a strong opinion on him in general. I mean, I think he's a little bit arrogant, but he with the name the Darkling, and also like with his kind of attitude, he reminds me a lot of the characterization of Rumpelstiltskin from Once Upon a Time. So I'm not gonna lie, when I keep hearing the Darkling, I immediately think of like the dark one from Once Upon a Time. For the first kind of part check-in for this kind of video though, I don't dislike it. I got a lot of mixed reactions on Twitter when I was talking about the fact that I was starting this book, and a lot of people were like, oh, it's not worth your time, or they didn't really enjoy it, or yes they did, but they didn't like 2 and 3, so I'm intrigued to see how I feel about this. For the sake of the internet, I probably will still read 2 and 3, even if I don't really like Shadow and Bone, so we'll see. As of now, how I feel, I like it. I do feel that everything seems a little bit very standard YA fantasy, which, no shade, nothing against it. I'm just saying, like, I guess for me, since I read Six of Crows first, that's when I first kind of thought about like the Grisha magical system and stuff. So for me, it's not like entirely new magical system in that sense. I mean, the Fold is very interesting and magical. That's definitely new. But yeah, those are just my basic first impressions, and we'll just see how the rest of this goes. Fingers crossed. So I just finished Shadow and Bone, and I have some thoughts. So this is gonna be like the last check-in, because as I said, I'm just done with Shadow and Bone. So I guess I was like, oh, I'll do it every third, and then it's like actually every half, which I think is a lot more realistic to do. Before I talk about like my 3 main thoughts about the book and maybe like the last half specifically, I just am gonna walk through the notes that I have. I was really confused. One of the things I did like about Shadow and Bone, and specifically about Alina, is that it talks about how much effort it is for her to suppress her powers and for her to kind of like dampen her own light in a non-corny, like non-being too on the nose kind of thing. I also felt like I was really shocked by the kiss actually between Alina and the Darkling, because I was not expecting it at all. Like, I thought that there was maybe a little bit of tension, but not like romantic tension really. Like, I felt like they didn't know enough about each other to like warrant that, I guess. This is just maybe me. And then I have a note that says, we like consent, not surprises. And so when this kind of happened, I was also thinking about like, are they being paired together because there's like a genuine connection? Or are they being paired together because they're almost like the epitome of opposites attract? I don't understand what everyone's hype about the Darkling is. Maybe the Darkling like changes as a character as the books go on, but at least from just the first book, I'm just like, I don't really see like the appeal, I guess, of him. One of the things I was thinking about as I was reading Shadow and Bone is just this kind of 2 different opinions about like calls to like. So kind of like everything, you know, the darkness inside the Darkling calls to darkness like around. And then also the idea of the Darkling and Alina as a pairing and being kind of very much opposites from a like power perspective, but also from a like, you know, he has a power for, you know, 5 million years or whatever, and she's like just started getting her power. So I thought that was an interesting juxtaposition, I guess, of those different struggles at the same time. Oh, I was also really surprised by the shock when his mom, and who I honestly cannot remember the name of his mom, A, that it's his mom, and B, that it like the only way that you can stop your power going to him is like running away. I just feel like that's not a long-term solution for that conflict. And so when I was reading that, I was like, is the answer really just to run away? Like, there can really be nothing else done against the Darkling? this is how I feel. And I also felt like it was kind of just like, run away, but not like run away and do this, or this is run away to here, or like run away with a plan. It was kind of just like run. And I just felt like, from a logical perspective, I felt like that was not helpful. And I understand maybe at the moment why that was helpful, but from a like, I'm trying to take down this power for the long term thing, I just felt like it wasn't really thought out that much. And that isn't necessarily like a Lee Bardugo kind of fault or a character fault. It's just, you know, an observation I had. The whole scene at the end with Mal, Alina, and the Darkling and the stag, I have a lot of thoughts about. And I guess my big thought, and so one of the bigger questions, right? So I mentioned I had three. One of the topics that I thought about was like this concept of if someone that you loved asked you to kill them, would you be able to do it? And this is something I've been thinking about for a while because of the Marvel universe. And so I've always felt like if it was in that situation, I feel like I would be able to do it. And I don't know if that's, I mean, A, that's probably because also I've never been in that position where I've had to. And I'm not in these cinematic worlds, right, where I would have to. But also B, like, there's always pretty high stakes, right? And so in this one, the stakes are like, you have to do this or like the world is going to get taken over essentially by the Darkling in the Fold. And so it's like, that doesn't sound good. And so I don't know, I just wondered, like, would I be able to do that? But yeah, I don't know. It just made me think about like all of that kind of stuff together. Oh, I also thought that Alina should have just killed the stag, but I understand that, you know, the compassion was the way forward. And like, I've already started reading Siege and Storm, so I'm already like a few chapters in, so I already know why that is a good decision. But at the time I was just like, huh? It's right in front of you. You've been running towards this thing. Like, what are you doing? And I guess in general also I was like, I don't understand what is going on in the minds of everyone around who's also believing in the Darkling. I just don't. I don't get it. Like, I just don't. So I guess when I was thinking, so going back to my three thoughts. So my first thought obviously was about not getting the Darkling hype. And honestly, I still don't get it because I also feel like, I mean, the Darkling is powerful. So I get that power is powerful, but he doesn't seem to me like a very charismatic kind of power. Like, he's not like someone where I will forgive what he's, or the idea but that I would forgive what he's saying because of how charismatic he is. And I also felt like I just don't really feel like I have a good sense enough about him as a person also to make a declarative statement like I really like him, you know? I just felt like we don't really get that, and that's fine with me because I would rather read about Alina and Alina's story anyway. But yeah, I just didn't really get the hype over the Darkling, and I don't know, as I said, if as I keep reading I will understand it more. We'll see, I guess. I did think that it made a cosmic kind of sense as well, like Mal and Alina being reunited at the end versus at the beginning, like that kind of plot arc or plot rainbow. I did think that that made a plot sense. The second one, I guess, was the sacrifice, and not being, or not the sacrifice, but like this concept of being able to sacrifice a loved one for the greater good, which we already kind of talked about. And the third one, what was my third thought? I guess my third thought was just like, how is this a solution, right? I feel like sometimes when I've been reading some books, and I've been reading a few books like this recently, where a character will make that decision and be like, yep, solved. I'm just like, no, I don't understand how this is supposed to be the way that that's supposed to solve all of our problems. So anyway, I'm excited to go into Siege and Storm. As I said, I've read like maybe a couple chapters, so I'm excited. I meant to film this before I started Siege and Storm, but it got really, really late at night, and so I'm filming this basically right as I wake up, which is why I look like this. And so I'm intrigued to keep on going into Siege and Storm. Honestly, if I wasn't trying to do this for the specific purposes of A, YouTube, and also B, before the Netflix series, I might not continue into Siege and Storm. It's not like I didn't like Shadow and Bone. I liked it. I thought it was okay. But it wasn't like, for me, it wasn't a 4-star book, I guess. It was more like a solid 3-star book. And that's kind of what I've been getting from other people's perspectives around when I told them I was starting Shadow and Bone. So, as I said, I'm gonna start Siege and Storm and keep on reading it, and I'll keep you updated, obviously, in future YouTube videos. But I just wanted to kind of give people a thought process. And if you like this video and want to see one about The Cruel Prince, which I haven't read, please let me know, because I think that would be really fun considering the amount of hype that that book gets. And considering the fact that I haven't read it and I've never read a Holly Black book, so that could be really fun for us both. Yeah, and I will hopefully see you in the Siege and Storm video.